Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of Sefer Mishlei, the book of Proverbs. We are about to begin chapter 12, and we begin chapter 12, that's Perek Yud Beis, with a really, there's so much to learn from every single verse. It's really, the biggest shame about learning Mishlei is that you kind of want to sit on each and every thought and think about it and absorb it and learn from it. And here we are, even though I'm trying to cut the chapters in half, we pack in each half chapter, every verse, at least 2 or 3 thoughts and lessons from each verse. But let's try to absorb them anyway. And if you have the time, take a verse that really strikes you and think about the words, think about the meaning, and see how that applies to your life. But Ohev Musar, Ohev Da'as. This is a remarkable connection, which unfortunately so many people don't realize, or maybe they know somewhere but don't take into practice. And that is that if one wants to accumulate knowledge, one is a lover of knowledge, that one also has to be an Ohev Musar, one has to be a lover of criticism. If you don't appreciate when somebody criticizes you, when somebody corrects you, when somebody provides information that causes you to question the things that you assumed before, this is so, I can't even possibly overemphasize how important this is nowadays, where people just grind themselves and lock themselves into thought processes and ways of thinking that they just refuse to leave. And the whole world, the algorithmic social media world we live in, just drives us deeper and deeper into this world in which all you hear is from people that agree with you. Ohev Musar is one who loves Musar, one who loves criticism, one who loves being told, maybe what you're thinking, maybe what you're doing is not right. Ohev Das, he is the same as the lover of knowledge, because he or she will learn and gain and grow from Musar. Knowledge is consequent on the humility that one needs to have to accept rebuke, to accept criticism. V'sonei tochachas, but one who hates tochacha, one who hates rebuke, ba'ar, he is a boor, or a brute, or a bar is just a kind of like a big, brutish, animalistic man that has no humanity. He just knows one thing that's just his way, and that's it, and never ever thinks, doesn't have any cognitive processes going on. Verse 2, Tov yafik ratzon me'adonai. A tov, a good person, he is the one who earns God's ratzon, God's favor. The ish mizimos, but a person who is devious. Yarshia, he makes others. He not only is he himself evil, but Yarshia, the Rashi and Mitzudos point out that it's the language of Yarshia, makes others, brings evil to others. Now this word mizimos, if you're careful, if you've been following carefully, you would have seen this word pop up many times. And in the first 9 chapters, the first section of the book, the term mizimos was always meant in a positive way. It meant a person who thinks through things, a person who tries to understand the proper path and thinks through different ways to do things in a positive light. Here, but after that, after the first section, the word mizimos always refers to devious plans. A person who's constantly trying to figure out ways to get around having to do the right thing. It's just an indicator that the book of Proverbs, Mishlei, was written in separate sections, whether it was at different times of Shlomo's life or whether there were different authors according to later scholars. Understanding it that way, whether you understand it traditionally or critically. But even if you understand it traditionally, you can still understand that the book having been written by Shlomo at different times of his life, possibly, or maybe just written as different books using these terms. But this term mizimos is an example of a term which indicates the separateness of those sections that we've been talking about. The section we're in now is going to go on for a while, all the way through Proverbs 22. So we got a way to go learning this current section. Lo yikon adam beresha. Now here we've had this term kain, chaf nun, as has several meanings, but in this context it means to establish something, to give something a strong foundation. So lo yikon adam beresha, a person cannot establish himself, cannot give himself a foundation with wickedness. Wickedness falls apart. Wickedness, because it's based on lies, will fall apart with the smallest. It's like a house of cards. A person cannot establish his life on resha. However, the shoresh tzadikim, the root of a tzaddik, the root is the metaphor for something that's strong and life-giving, that holds on to the ground, that gives strength, that gives a foundation, that gives a basis, and gives life to the tree above the ground. The shoresh of tzaddikim, of the righteous people, bal yimot, will never slip, will never let loose. That root's going to hold on tight, and it's always going to be there. So if you try to build yourself up with falsehood, with wickedness, with lying, with cheating, it's going to fall apart like a house of cards. All someone needs to do is just pull one and the whole thing tumbles. But if you base your life on righteousness, it will give you a solid foundation and a growth for life. Eishes chayil, a woman of valor, it's often how it's translated. A chayil is a woman who has good qualities, a woman who has, this is referring to specifically a wife who has all the positive qualities, which we're going to learn, of course, together in a bit of time at the end. The last chapter of Proverbs describes those qualities that makes a woman chayil, a woman who is capable, a woman who has all these skills. Ateres bala, she is a crown for her husband. She helps him accomplish and achieve the things that he needs to in his life. Ucherochav biatzmosav mevisha, but the opposite, a mevisha, a woman of shame, a woman of embarrassment. But here doesn't mean shame in the sense of shame in front of other people. It means a woman that has no capabilities, that has no skills, that is incompetent, that can't do anything. She is like a rekev, like a rot in his bones. Machshavos said, verse 5, Machshavos tzadikim mishpat. The thoughts of the righteous person are always about justice. A righteous person is always thinking about how he can do things right, how he can make things better in the world, how he can do things just. Mishpat. Tachbulos risha'im emirma. But the devious plans and schemes that the evil person is always thinking about, he's always thinking about how to lie, how to cheat. Mirma, how to fake others, how to cheat. Divrei Rishoim Erav Dam, and that we just before in verse 5 talked about the thoughts of the tzaddik versus the thoughts of the rasha, the thoughts of the righteous person versus the thoughts of the wicked person. Now we're talking about the speech of the rasha, right? Divrei Rishoim Erav Dam. The words of a rasha are always like a blood ambush. Their words, an ambush. In other words, everything looks safe, it looks good, but ultimately, if you follow that advice, you're going to get hurt, right? But Fufi Yesharim, but the words of a person who is a Yashar, who is straight, who is proper, who doesn't lie, Yatzileim will save those people who ask him or her for advice. Hafoch Rishaim ve'enam. Now the essence of the Rasha, the essence of the wicked person, if you search them out, hafoch literally means to turn upside down, but it's usually, in this context, means to search them out, to look through, to turn them over and over, to get to know their essence. Ve'enam, you'll find nothing. There is no essence there. There's nothing to them. There's no depth to their personality. There's no depth to their wisdom. There's no depth to who they are. Uveis tzadikim ya'amod. But the house of the righteous person. Now, why does it compare the rasha to the house of the righteous person? Because not only is the tzaddik himself, the righteous person himself, a person of depth, a person of substance, but that which he builds around him, his family, his friends, the things that he builds, Ya'amod, will be something that endures forever, because it has something to offer the world. It is something that will endure. Lefi sichlo yuhul al ish. A person will be praised according to his mind, according to his intelligence. This is verse 8. V'na'ave lev, but a person who has a twisted mind, a person who's never thinking truth, who's never teaching truth, who's never discussing truth, constantly thinking of devious ways to get away with what he wants to get away with, without sticking to the truth. Yiyeh lavuz. In the end, he will be embarrassed, ashamed, and stepped upon. Lavuz. He will be in shame. He will be at the bottom of the rung, because he is no one will ever respect him. He will be disrespected. Tov niklev evedlo. But sometimes the honor of others, this is kind of given as a contrast. Verse 9, right? We just mentioned the greatness of the praise that a person achieves when he has intelligence, when he's a tzaddik, the kind of things that he builds. But sometimes, right, in certain environments, it's better to be ashamed. It's better not to go out and try to earn the praise of everyone else. If it means that ve'evedlo, that you have a servant to help you, which is the symbol of a person who has means, who has wealth to support himself, right? It's better sometimes one has to lower himself to be nikla, right, and not be so concerned about what things look like. If it means getting food on the table, that's better than being someone who has all the honor in the world but doesn't have enough money in his bank account to buy dinner. That sometimes, so sometimes honor is not exactly the best thing. Now the next verse is fascinating. Yodea tzaddik, a tzaddik, a righteous person, knows nefesh behemto. He knows the soul, the heart of his animals, right? Of his animal. This is really wonderful verse here. It talks about the nefesh, the soul of the animal. All the commentaries discuss this over here, that a tzaddik, a righteous person, is kind, is compassionate, and he understands that his animal isn't just a thing, but his animal has feelings, it has needs, it has wants, right? And he knows, the tzaddik, a righteous person, knows and understands what his animal's needs are. He knows when it needs to be warm. He knows when it needs food. He knows when it needs care, right? That is, so a tzaddik, not only is he good to himself and good to the people that are around him, he even gets to the depth of the needs of his animals. However, the Rasha, the wicked person, is all the way on the other end of the thing. Because even when he looks like he's being merciful, he's actually being mean. He pretends that he's being nice. He puts on the appearance of being nice, but ultimately what he's doing is cruel. V'rachamei rishaim, and the mercy that a Rasha, that a wicked person shows, achzari, is actually wickedness. Oved admaso, one who works his land, yispalachem, will always have bread to eat. In other words, it's hard to work. It's hard work, and it takes a lot. But if you do it, you're going to have bread to eat at the end of the day. But a person who is constantly chasing empty people, he's always running after the easy buck. He's running to Wall Street, running around with the guys that are wheeling and dealing, but not actually contributing or doing anything positive in this world. He's running after the empty ones, the guys who are trying to drink and have fun and party, but not actually contribute anything, while the other guy is plowing and working hard in his field. But at the end of the day, the Oved Admaso Yispalacham, he's going to have bread to eat. The guy who's running after the Reikim, the empty people, Chasar Lev, he is being nonsensical. He is being silly. He's being stupid, right? Because in the end, we know he's going to get nowhere, as it says in the next verse, Chomad Rasha Mitzod Ra'im, right? A wicked person is constantly desiring the kinds of things that the wicked people get, the bad people get. He's always looking, oh, look at that guy. He's so rich. He has so much money. I'm going to go and do what he's doing, right? V'shorish tzadikim yitain, right? However, the roots, remember we spoke earlier, several verses ago, that the tzaddik, the righteous person, builds solid roots. He's not running after nonsense. He's not running after meaningless things that are obtained through ill-gotten means, right? Yitain, it constantly gives. He's always gaining from it. He puts down those roots, he does the hard work, and he has bread to eat at the end of the day. This is the kind of honor that we should avoid, the kind of honor that one gets with those royim, those evil people, but rather, right, sometimes it's better to be the simple guy, the guy who's working hard and plowing his field, because at the end of the day, he's going to have what to eat, rather than the guy who's hanging out with all of the fat cats, right? And in the end, when he goes home, he has nothing. He has no bread, nothing. He might have all these friends that he drank with, but in the end, he has nothing. Verse 13, Befeshas vasayim, with the sins of speech, mokeshra, right? That is what the trap for the evil guy. The evil guy is always being trapped by people that lie. The guy who's looking for that kind of company, the one who's looking to get away with things the easy way, who's looking to try to find the easy path to wealth, right? He's constantly going to get fooled by all of those people who are lying to him. Do this, do that, buy this stock, sell this one, do that one, whatever. He's going to, but it's all a big bunch of lies. He is going to get trapped. The evil person, gets trapped by evil speech. It's just a fascinating thing. When you're a liar yourself, you're much more susceptible to listening to other people's lies. It seems like one would think otherwise. One would think that if you're a liar, then you would know that everyone's full of lies and you would know not to believe them. But the way it happens, if you look out at the world around us, that it's the opposite. The people that lie the most are the people that fall the most for the traps. They don't see through the other people's lies, and they fall for it. Now, vayetze mitzora tzaddik. However, the tzaddik, the righteous person, while the other person keep falling for these traps, the tzaddik, the righteous person, is coming out of a difficult place. Now, what's the relationship between that and speech and falling for evil speech? We see that in the next verse, which is a continuation in verse 14. The continuation of this verse 13, because mipri pi'ish yispatov, because from the mouth of a human being, yispatov, he gets all of the good that he needs, right? A tzaddik also listens to speech, but he listens to good speech, right? He listens to people that give him advice. Remember how we started this chapter, right? One who's ready to listen to rebuke, who's ready to listen to criticism. He's the one that gets good. He's the one that gains, right? So a tzaddik uses speech from others by learning lessons from it. When a person tells you maybe this is a better way to do things, he learns lessons from it. He gets smarter. So yisbatov, he becomes satisfied with all kinds of good things. Ugemul yidei adam yashiv lo, right? And he will be repaid, right, by the favors and the good things that other human beings do for him. When you're a tzaddik, you find people who mean well for you, who are trying to help you, and you gain from that. So that same speech, the guy who's looking for the evil people, the guy who's looking for the quick buck, who doesn't want to do the hard work, is going to fall for all the lies and the deceit that the people that he hangs out with are telling them. And that speech is going to be a trap for him. And he's going to listen to what they say, even though it's full of nonsense and it's certainly not being said for his benefit. And he's going to end up being trapped in it. However, the tzaddik, the righteous person, is going to surround himself with people who genuinely want better for him. And they will guide him in the right path. And he and his friends will continue to grow and bring good one to the other so that he will gain. This is about halfway through the chapter, so I think it's a good spot to stop. I look forward very much to finishing chapter 12 with you. Each and every one of these chapters is so chock full of things we can learn from, and I really, really hope you're enjoying this, at least as much as I am. Please feel free to comment in any of the public forums. You can also send me an email at weinrebsaul, that's WEINREBSAUL @gmail.com. I definitely welcome engagement and comment. I wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful day.